we don't know where it came from, and that implies the source is still out there. Bad news. The newspaper commissioned him to write the article, so he contacted Dr. Jan and sent him a series of questions to try to understand the implications of the work for the origin of the virus. Clearly, one of the ways that a virus could have become well adapted for humans, in the words of the paper's title, was by having spent time in human cells or in a so-called humanized animal in the laboratory. Humanized animals, usually mice, have had their genomes altered to include a key human gene, in this case, the entry receptor for certain SARS-related coronaviruses. At the time, a laboratory accident or leak still did not seem likely to Matt. He wrote to Dr. Jan, "I'd like to focus on the issue of the lack of an apparent adaptive period of rapid genetic substitution, and its implication that the virus had been circulating in human beings for longer than expected. I am not focusing on the lab leak possibility, though I will probably mention it among other possibilities." He received a lengthy, detailed, and fascinating reply from Dr. Jan's co-author, Alina. To Matt's surprise, Alina did not pour cold water on his growing suspicions that a laboratory leak could not be ruled out. Indeed, she alerted him to a low-key announcement that week from the Chinese authorities that no animals in the Huanan seafood market in Wuhan had tested positive. This was consistent with the findings she and her colleagues reported in their paper that the market samples are genetically identical to human SARS-CoV-2 isolates and were therefore most likely from human sources. On the 29th of May 2020, the Wall Street Journal published Matt's essay under the headline, "So where did this virus come from?" The article began, "New research has deepened, rather than dispelled, the mystery surrounding the origin of the coronavirus responsible for COVID-19. Bats, wildlife markets, possibly pangolins, and perhaps laboratories may all have played some role. But the simple story of an animal in a market infected by a bat that then infected several human beings no longer looks credible." Over the next several months, increasingly intrigued by the failure to turn up evidence of a chain of infections in a market, a village, or anywhere else, Matt came to rely more and more on Alina's advice and insight as he pursued the story of the virus's origin. Eventually, he proposed that they join forces to write this book. By the time they finished writing it, because of the pandemic, they still had not met in person. The importance of finding the origin of COVID-19. How the COVID-19 pandemic started may be the keenest mystery of our lifetime. The saga will forever punctuate the history of humanity. It has led to the deaths of millions of people, sickened hundreds of millions, and dramatically changed the lives of almost every person on the planet. The impact of this invisible virus can also be measured in weddings and gatherings cancelled, jobs lost, and businesses bankrupted, schools closed and parents balancing childcare and work, clinical visits missed and treatments put on hold, and innumerable people living more isolated lives than before. If we do not find out how this pandemic began, we are ill-equipped to know when, where, and how the next pandemic may start. In 2019, with more than 7 billion human beings crowding the planet, crushed into dense cities, traveling frequently and far, the world was akin to a forest of dry tinder poised for a pandemic to ignite. Yet infectious diseases were in rapid retreat. The great killers of the past were under better control. Smallpox was extinct, polio endangered, typhoid rare, plague suppressed, malaria retreating, tuberculosis at a lower level than for most past centuries. Even AIDS, which emerged in the 1980s, was killing fewer people every year thanks to new treatments and public health interventions. With each passing year, the scientific tools and resources available for tracking and controlling outbreaks became ever more ingenious. A new pathogen could be detected, isolated, and analyzed with unprecedented speed and precision. Its genome could be sequenced, its structure elaborated.